I am gonna call the meeting to order. It looks like we do have a quorum. There's 4 of us. Roll call. Sorry.
So we're all awake. It's okay.
No, there's Tyler.
Okay.
Good timing.
Committee Member Herman.
Here.
Committee Member Dukes. Committee Member Musgrave. Christopher.
Here.
Committee Member Musgrave Ed.
Here.
Committee Member Winterson.
Here.
And Committee Member Chapman.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. We are looking at the minutes from March 4th, and do I have a call to approve? Sorry, I didn't say that right.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Thanks.
Yeah. I second.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. Public comments?
Yes. I would like to extend Deborah's regrets. She had a family emergency she's having to attend.
I see.
I haven't looked at the minute or the agenda. Are we discussing rooftop solar?
No, we're not. These guys will give us a nice presentation on go over repower their program.
So I would just, Deborah attended a meeting held by RCA last week, I suppose.
Can you get his mic?
She attended a meeting with RCA. She's a member of the Citizens Advisory Committee concerning rooftop solar and the fact that the PUC in its infinite wisdom has decided to stop or allow the citizen or the publicly owned utilities to start charging all people for being connected to the grid, which is basically pulling the rug out from under all the solar installers in the county and the state, because nobody's interested anymore. It's going to cost them to have PG&E is not going to pay them for their electricity, and everybody's not happy except PG&E maybe. So I know that's not exactly in your purview, but if anybody has any ideas, they should bring them up.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. There's nothing under old business, so moving to new business, we have the repower proposal. RCA is providing a presentation on their repower program for the city of Eureka. Thank you, RCA.
Thank you to the Energy Committee. It's nice to be back here to present in front of you again. My name is Mike Avkale. I'm a senior manager on our infrastructure planning department, and with me is Richard Engel, our director of power resources, and Sally Regley, who's our account services manager on the power resources team. One question I have before we get started is advancing the slides. Is there a way for me to do that here, or just ask you just? I guess we could just say next slide if that works for you. Yeah. Okay. So again, thanks for allowing us to come and present tonight. We're presenting on a product that we have called Repower Plus. And if you go to the next slide. But before we dive into the details of what Repower Plus is, I thought I would give a little background about our CEA for anybody who might not be as familiar. Our team wanted to just give you that background. And so we're a joint powers agency. Our member agencies consist of the 7 incorporated cities in Humboldt County, the county itself, the Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District, the Blue Lake Rancheria, and the Yurok tribe. Next slide, please. And our purpose is to develop and implement sustainable energy initiatives that reduce energy demand, increase energy efficiency, and advance the use of clean and efficient and renewable resources available in the region for the benefit of all of our member agencies and their constituents. Next slide, please. And again, for people who might not be steeped in utility issues, Pacific Gas and Electric we would call them our transmission and distribution provider. So the simplest way that I've found to say that is they continue to own the poles and the wires and the physical infrastructure that provides our electric supply, but RCEA provides the electric generation component. The electric supply, the electrons that flow on those wires are actually provided to customers by Redwood Coast Energy Authority. So we offer we offer the things that we offer that are different. We have the same reliability and the same reliable electric service as you would have with PG&E, but we offer local control, local programs, and local account services that you don't get with Pacific Gas and Electric. And next slide, please. So part of our mission or part of our work is we work on climate action planning along with the county and all of our member agencies. We help draft the Climate Action Plan, which is a multi-jurisdictional plan that explores ways to reduce our emissions countywide. And that Climate Action Plan, along with RCEA's comprehensive action plan for energy, helps us, have long-term planning around energy, clean and reliable and renewable energy, and in an effort to decarbonize our future. Sorry, stalled out there. Next slide, please. And so we have procurement goals at RCEA is that within our comprehensive plan, action plan for energy is to provide 100% renewable and carbon-free energy by 2025 and to provide 100% local renewable energy by 2030. And the quote there is, from our strategic plan is that we'd be a net exporter of renewable electricity and our power mix would consist of 100% local net zero carbon emission renewable sources. So that's some of our guiding ideas behind Redwood Coast Energy and our procurement goals. Next slide, please. And so we came to then talk about how do these things affect the city of Eureka. And the city of Eureka is one of our biggest energy users in the county. And I think you'll see that we kind of quantified what are your biggest electric loads. And so the big orange slice of that pie is your wastewater treatment facility. Mm-hmm. Sequoia Park Zoo is the gray slice of the pie above that. The Eureka Police Department is the yellow slice above that. The Pacific Marina, or the Public Marina, sorry. And then the Wellness Center, I believe, is the Adorney Center, and then Eureka City Hall. Then the biggest blue slice we just lumped together is all other accounts. There are, we found 188 utility accounts or electric accounts altogether. And so that's kind of where the city facilities are using energy today. And then I think with that slide, I'm going to hand off the presentation to Sally.
Hi, Sally Regley, Account Services Manager. Regley. You're welcome. Yes, please. Yeah, so RCEA has a couple of power content choices. When an eligible or when a customer joins us, they automatically get enrolled into our default repower power source, and that's what City of Eureka currently has. In this mix, you see the list of sources off to the right, a little bit of biomass. There's eligible hydroelectric, solar, and wind. Solar is the 22%, and the large hydroelectric, and then a small amount of unspecified power. That's our general repower content mix. And this varies from year to year based on RCA's power contracts and our short-term purchases. We are looking at the 2022 power mix, as our 2023 isn't certified just yet. So that's why we're showing you 2022, and that is what's currently shown on our website. Next slide. And so we're happy also when customers want to invest in a higher renewable content. And so we have the Repower Plus power source. And this provides the 100% renewable and carbon-free energy services. We've got 33% with wind, and same with solar and hydroelectric. So this power mix is what we currently have also listed on our website, and this mix is planned to stay the same for the foreseeable future. So Repower Plus is what we are here to talk to you about tonight. Your interest in joining us in that effort. Next slide. I wanted to show you the power content label. Again, this is on our website, and I'll draw your eyes to the center there where it says energy resources and eligible renewable. So as you go across to the right from that, you see our Repower default power mix is 50% renewable, and the Repower Plus is 100% renewable. It also lists the mixture for the 2022 California power mix. So if everybody was aggregated for California, that would be 35.8. And not on this, in case you're interested, PG&E on their website shows that their power content for 2022, their basic mix was about 38.3. Next slide. So we thought it would be interesting. We also have available on our website for people who would like to know what their greenhouse gas impacts emissions are. And so I went ahead and input the amount of kilowatts that the city of Eureka used and developed this slide for you. So as Mike mentioned, you have 188 accounts active with us. And the usage for all of those accounts is about 5.5 million kilowatt hours. Excuse me.
In the year, yeah.
Then from that, the estimate annual greenhouse gas pounds CO2 emission is 269,385, so just about 270,000. But with Repower Plus, that would be zero. So your savings would be that amount. Next slide. And the cost for that. So RCEA looked at the city's electricity usage, and in 2023, that is that 5.4 million kilowatt hour, and looked at the cost at a penny per kilowatt for Repower Plus, and estimated that the additional cost to the city would be $54,534. And this is about an 8% increase. Next slide. And we see the key benefits for you to opt up. Obviously, switching to the Repower Plus will result in the zero greenhouse gas emissions, and also zero particulate emissions. RCA will also process all the conversions. So you have 188 accounts. That might take a little bit of work. So we'd be more than happy to actually input all those accounts and to transition them for you. And then we thought you might be interested in, we would be available to return to the committee if you so choose to opt up in a year, and provide you another report on the actual emissions and the cost impacts, as this is an estimation. And you can use that for comparison to the current projections we've provided tonight. Next slide. And if you have any questions for us.
I do have a question on the Repower mix. It says 20% biomass and bio-waste. What does that consist of?
I'll let our expert answer.
I'm the one that usually gets the biomass questions. Ever since we started our program, we've had a contract with Humboldt Sawmill Company, which back when we first contracted them, were called Humboldt Redwood Company. They're based, their plant is in Scotia. It's the big redwood mill there. And so they have a plant that's been operating since originally the 1980s. It's a cogeneration plant, so in addition to generating electricity, it also produces thermal energy, steam that they use for kilns where they dry their lumber. And at one time, they were even distributing some of the steam out to the town of Scotia to provide heating for homes there. They're no longer doing that. They use about 1/3 of the electricity that they produce on site for running the sawmill, and the other 2/3 get sold to RCEA, and that's what makes up that percentage for our customers. At one time, we also had a contract with the other biomass plant out in Fairhaven, so our percentage of biomass was a little larger then, but that's a smaller plant, and they've since ceased operation.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I was curious if either of these plans have any means for like demand response and peak power clipping, and if maybe the city could offset its, current, maybe the added cost for this by doing something like that.
Yeah, we have done some offerings of programs for demand response. Usually we focus those in the summer months when the wholesale power costs tend to get the highest, when it just really benefits our programs the most and the customer bills the most to do those savings. So I think we can take that back to our demand side management team and just make sure that, if the city is interested in taking advantage of demand response programs, we could just make sure that the city gets notified as future offerings come out. I don't know if either of you had anything to add on that question.
I had a quick question on the distinction between large hydro and eligible hydro.
Yeah, I can handle that one. The state of California has what they call the Renewable Portfolio Standard, which is, there's a whole manual on this that goes into great detail, but it's basically the types of technologies that are deemed renewable in California. So all solar, all wind, all biomass is renewable, geothermal as well. There's kind of a nuance with hydroelectric power. It's recognized that large hydro projects with big dams have a lot of environmental impacts, even though any kind of hydro can be considered renewable because it's a form of energy that replenishes itself year after year. But because of the high environmental impacts of these big dams, the state of California has decided to make a distinction and says that generally with a cutoff point of 30 megawatts capacity, anything smaller than that is deemed as renewable, and larger plants are not deemed as renewable, but they can still be considered carbon-free. They don't produce CO2 emissions, so that's why to the extent that we're not providing renewable energy in part of our mix, we strive to get large hydro for that, because although it's not renewable, it is at least avoiding carbon dioxide emissions, so has providing some environmental benefit. There's some other nuances to that, like if you have a system that's part of like a municipal water conveyance, so it's providing other benefits, then it can be up to a 40 megawatt size, but I won't bore you with all the details. Typically consider anything smaller than 30 megawatts in most instances is renewable.
Well, so as far as the biomass piece, so that's definitely out of Repower Plus and expected to be in the future?
Yeah, when we first started our program, we did include some biomass power in the Repower Plus, but just because we got a lot of comments from the community that were concerned about the greenhouse gas emissions and the pollutants from the biomass, we made a decision to just reset the Repower Plus to not include biomass. And for people that are customers of ours and have concerns about the emissions in the Repower mix, we encourage them to consider opting up as a way to not have those emissions as part of their mix, at least.
What percentage of all the energy in Eureka is used by the city of Eureka?
I don't know that they'd know that. But maybe.
I think we'd have to look that up. We do have a breakdown. It's not posted on our website, so it's not something I can grab right now. We do have a breakdown of the total energy use by jurisdiction, so it's easy for us to look that up. We just don't have access to it right this minute. So I think we just have to say I don't know right now. We could follow up with that answer, though, if you want to know.
So I'm curious. I mean, this is a little bit of a spitball. I don't want to necessarily worry this one too much if the answers we don't know. But if we're buying more power that has to be solar, is there any chance that would pressure someone in PG&E's position to look at those policies that were brought up by the public a moment ago?
No. I don't think so.
Is what you're getting at the CPUC's changes to net energy metering? Yeah, well, it's not PG&E that sets the policy. I mean, it might be their interests that were arguably behind the change in policy, but really it comes down to the Public Utilities Commission. I mean, to the extent that there's more demand for solar, I think in a way that could actually work against net metering rules being more generous to customers. And I'm speculating here, but I'll just say that, the reason that the fairly generous net energy metering rates were originally set back in the early 2000s was to kind of help create a market for solar. Because back then, very, very few people had solar on their rooftops, and they wanted to create incentives that would change that. And you could say it's really been successful. I mean, if anything, it's in the middle of the day, especially in the spring months, like right around now, California actually has a glut of solar on the grid in the middle of the day, and they have to curtail it, which means that they're denying a lot of the solar generators access to the grid because there just isn't enough electric demand to soak it up. So in that sense, solar has been a huge success story in California. Most of that is big central solar plants, but the rooftop solar has made a very large contribution too. So if we start, trying to add more solar to our mix, it would likely, in a way we'd be sending a market signal that, there's plenty of demand for solar, so you don't need to incentivize it more. And I think that's kind of the message that the state would get from that.
The other thing I think embedded in Richard's answer is that there's a difference between the wholesale contracts that our power resources team purchases to meet the county-wide demand for energy versus the rooftop solar, which are agreements between the energy service provider and the customer.
I see.
So just there are also different sides of the solar supply.
I guess just my last thing is, as we're transitioning, hopefully in the future, our electric vehicle fleet, should we adopt, should the city of Eureka adopt like a 1 cent per kilowatt hour step up in power procurement, that could affect the payback on something like that, correct?
I think there's benefits to having Repower Plus. RCA owns some charging stations, and we operate them, and we put, to the extent possible, when we own the meter, we put them on Repower Plus so that we can get the credit of saying your vehicle is charging on fully renewable energy when you're charging on our network. And I think there could be similar benefits to the city to saying their fleet is then powered by fully renewable energy. So, that may be of a benefit as your fleet electrifies.
Yeah, it's sort of maybe a even simpler question. I mean, there's an apparent cost. You put the cost out there. Is the benefit beyond the feel good? Do we meet some requirement? Do we? Yeah, where's the benefit, the cost benefit? Where's the benefit side of the cost benefit? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, electrons are electrons, right? So it doesn't make your appliances run better or anything like that. It really does come down to what are the kind of global benefits of reducing our emissions. And I think, that's a story that's, been told in many ways, but, I think local governments have climate action plans, right? As Mike discussed, that's one of the things that we work on. Each jurisdiction that has a climate action plan or is participating in one, this is one of the ways that they can fulfill their emissions reduction goals. So I think that's kind of a key benefit. And then, Sally also mentioned there's no particulate emissions. There's some particulate emissions that come from the Humboldt Bay generating station that runs on natural gas, in addition to the particulates that come from the biomass plant. So if you're Repower Plus, none of your energy is coming from either of those. And so, you're providing a public health benefit in that sense as well. So there are things that might not, show up in the balance sheet of the city of Eureka per se, but are, delivering on commitments the city has to, look out for the well-being of its population and to fulfill its climate goals.
And I'll add too that you won't be the first member agency to opt up to Repower Plus. City of Arcata did back in 2017, and City of Blue Lake also gets their power as Repower Plus.
And I'll just maybe seconding what Richard said, there has been some talk in the recent round of climate action planning that you might have read about, where local jurisdictions were discouraged from taking credit for industrial point source emission reductions in Humboldt County. And it was because those local jurisdictions really didn't play a role in regulating those point source emissions, so they weren't able to claim credit for this. This is something that is within your city government's power, that is within your decision-making process, and so I think you can get the credit for the emissions reductions versus that larger issue of, point source emissions from closed mills that maybe we didn't and shouldn't take credit for. This is an action you could take credit for.
Gotcha.
So with Repower Plus, right now it's 1/3 solar, 1/3 wind, and 1/3 small hydro. With the possibility of the wind, I know it's going to be a while, but with the wind energy that might be coming on board in our area, could that increase the wind and decrease the hydro?
We don't have any direction from our board to change that mix at this time. But, City of Eureka, as being one of our member jurisdictions, could certainly bring that to the table if they'd like to see more focus on energy that's genuinely being sourced, locally. As we talked about earlier, we have a goal to eventually get all of our energy from local sources, and offshore wind is going to make a huge difference in making it feasible to really get enough electricity for all of our community from local sources. We do expect, however, that at least initially, offshore wind is going to be an expensive resource. We don't actually have price quotes on it yet. We were part of a group of community choice aggregator programs like ours in California that asked the developers that have these leases for wind sites off the California coast to provide pricing, and none of them are ready to do that yet because there's still too many uncertainties in what it's going to cost to build these projects and how soon they'll actually be able to get them constructed. But I think all expectations are that it will be more expensive than other renewable sources that we can currently contract for. So that's somewhat going to limit our appetite. I don't think we're going to want to, get 100% of our renewable energy from offshore wind. It would probably be too expensive.
Thank you.
As far as the public health benefit, would be kind of the stated goal for this to be, if we'd move towards this and we have more of the local demand being on this, we could, say shut down the local gas power plant for certain periods, or could curtail that production and import more power to, here locally for the public health benefit?
Yeah, that certainly is a possibility as we get more and more sales of renewable energy locally. But I will just point out there's a distinction that I make between physical electricity and transactional electricity. Really, customers of ours are not, in transactional terms, getting any of their electricity from the Humboldt Bay gas plant because we don't contract for that power. PG&E continues to run that plant, and in a transactional sense, that electricity is going to PG&E customers elsewhere in their service territory that are not customers of our program. Now, in a physical sense, that's totally different. Electrons flow to the closest load to where the energy is generated. So in real physical terms, yes, that electricity is serving Humboldt County energy users just by virtue of them being physically the closest on the grid to the plant. But so you could argue that the gas plant will run as long as there are customers to use that electricity, and as long as state regulators don't step in to shut it down, or PG&E doesn't determine that the plant has reached the end of its useful life, which will eventually come at some point. So there are other forces that would cause that plant to eventually shut down. But PG&E also has goals, because they're a state-regulated utility like us. They have the same goals that they have to gradually move towards a cleaner and cleaner power mix. So there will come a time when they just won't have a rationale for running natural gas plants anymore. So in kind of a roundabout way, we and all the energy users in California that are getting greener and greener electricity will cause the plant to shut down, but I can't really point a direct, cause and effect between our customers opting up and that plant shutting down.
Yeah, or maybe, because I know, like, if I leave the lights on at my house, even if I'm getting clean power from, somewhere on the other side of the state, electrons, I'm wasting power from a carbon source, right? Whatever power purchase agreements might exist in the world, has a carbon impact. But I'm maybe wondering, maybe not the PG&E plant, that's just going to operate regardless of how many people we get signed up on this plan. What about the biomass plant? Essentially, if we're not, if more customers are shifting towards this, and I'm not personally opposed to the biomass plant, but if other members of city governance or whatever, and more consumers are opposed to the biomass plant, and I've heard many people speak about that. Not my personal opinion, but could that be their way of kind of like voting city or the city and consumers of kind of voting that plant out and making that plant less competitive?
There's a little bit more cause and effect that can be attributed in this case than with the PG&E gas plant, since we are buying power directly from them. So depending on the economics of the situation, there is a scenario where we could say, hey, we've got enough opted up customers who just want wind and solar and small hydro. We don't have appetite for this biomass anymore, and we opt not to renew our contract with them next time it runs out. That's currently 2031 is the date when the contract would expire if neither party takes action to change that. However, in recently talking to the folks that run that plant, we've asked them this in meetings that we've had, where we've had community members concerned about the biomass, because people have said, why doesn't RCA stop sooner to procure from this plant? And we've asked the folks that run the plant, would you shut down if we stopped contracting with you? And they've said no. They've said that they would still be able to make a profit selling their power to other buyers. So they don't think it's likely they would shut down. That narrative can change over time, though. When we first bought power from the biomass plant, we were paying above market prices for it, but the market has changed to where we're actually getting a bargain on that electricity now. But that could swing back the other way. Power markets move up and down.
Have you all spoken with the city of Eureka about this as well, city council?
I think the only comment that I have on that, and maybe Mike and Sally have other information, but I know that Councilmember Bauer, who's also on our board of directors, commented at the last RCEA board meeting that he had consulted with the city's finance director and that they were in agreement that this was viable for the city. So I think he's supportive of it. I don't know how the rest of the city council or other key city staff other than the finance director feel.
Sweet. What would you need from us to help make this happen?
So if you read on your agenda there, you're going to recommendation from staff is to receive the report and provide a recommendation to city council.
Okay.
So this is
Yep,
where
I saw that.
Yep.
I saw that. I was asking them though.
Yeah.
But I mean, that makes sense. But
I asked them to come to provide you the information, so that's why I stepped in to answer that question, so that you guys can then provide it to council, if you recommend it or not, and then we would go to council and we would provide this presentation to them for them to make the ultimate decision. So that this is your guys' purview. You're expert.
Same
Thank you.
answer we would have given you.
Okay, good.
sweet. All right.
So I was wondering a little bit about, so on the, kind of thinking in terms of like what sort of demand signals would come out of doing this. So the wind power piece, that would be for wind that's probably always going to be onshore because, like you said, offshore wind is like more expensive than we'd be considering buying, more likely to be.
Yeah, but it probably will be more expensive, at least initially. You know, I mean, these kind of technology curves, you know, as they mature, they tend to come to converge more in price. Yeah, and I certainly won't say that we don't plan to procure offshore wind. In fact, we have to deliver an integrated resource plan to the state of California once every 2 years. And for the last couple of cycles, we've been modeling 40 megawatts of offshore wind in our plan. So that's a pretty significant chunk of our whole energy need there. I think it's likely that eventually, you know, this mix of power that we procure will incorporate both onshore and offshore wind. But I will also point out that the offshore wind is probably not expected to be online until around the mid-2030s at this point.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for bringing this report to us. And do we need to vote on receiving it, or we can just receive it at this point?
You can receive it. You've done that.
Yep.
If you're going to do a recommendation, you need to open it for public comment before you do any voting thing. So,
Public.
but just, you know, state that you've received the report and go from there.
Okay, so we've received the report from our CA. Does anybody want to put forth a recommendation? Proposal?
I recommend that the city changes their electric procurement to Power Plus.
Public comment before you
Yeah.
before you start
Yep.
something you're voting on, please. You have to say.
Okay, opening it up to public. Yes, opening to public comment. Does the public want to comment? And I think there's somebody online as well. If you would like to comment, person online. Hi. But yeah, go ahead.
I think it sounds like a great idea. I recommend that you make the recommendation to the council.
Thank you.
I agree with that, definitely.
Thank you. Okay, moving it back to the recommendation. So did you want to frame that in the form of a motion?
Yes, I move so.
Okay, so the motion is to recommend to the city of Eureka to switch our power program from Repower to Repower Plus.
Exactly.
Okay, is there a second?
I second that motion.
All right. Having a second. All those in favor of this recommendation?
I had a quick quick question there. And, you know, I'm not public, so I'm gonna.
Any comments?
Yeah, and the discussion, a little bit of discussion. This is more for Kelly. Would the decision-making process, is this something the city council can do? How does that end of the decision process work?
So you guys are going to give your recommendation, and whether that is to go or not, if you say yes, then we will go to council and provide a presentation again and allow them to vote on it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Does anybody else have any? Okay. I'm going to call for a vote then on the recommendation to switch from Repower to Repower Plus. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 And it passes unanimously. Do we need to write something up? Nope. Okay, beautiful.
We'll have you as a comment in the slide when we give a presentation that it was brought to you on this date and your recommendation was to move to Repower Plus.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for presenting, Tia. We appreciate you coming in. Thanks for making that happen, Kelly. Okay, so election of committee secretary. Have we had anybody volunteer to be the committee secretary? I don't recollect that. So I think I'll start there. So I'm gonna move to 6.1, but have a good night. Thanks for coming in. Does anybody want to volunteer?
Well, I'd love to, but I'm already serving.
Okay, so with no volunteers, I'm just tabling it, right? I mean, I'm not sure what else to do here.
Are we? Is it only one person interested in having the notes, or are you guys finding the notes useful? Because we can table it, yes. But I'm just asking at a general, as committees have, we put it on the new bylaws, right? So to have one.
Yeah,
But are you guys finding
think
that
I voted
helpful?
against that, but y'all.
No,
I'll
no.
leave it
I'm
up
just
to the
asking
group.
why we
No, it's
got it.
valid. I personally think I voted against the committee secretary thing
Okay.
because I just didn't think it was necessary. But I think that's what the minutes are for. But if
Okay.
other folks, but if somebody wants to volunteer, that's awesome.
I mean, personally, I think the minutes are helpful, and
Yeah.
I'd second tabling it.
I think we can leave it vacant for the year if no one wants to fill it, and then we won't have notes. So do you want to table it until Deborah's here to see if she wants to do it again, or do you want to just leave it vacant? We can decide. There's 4 of you.
We can table it until Deborah's here.
Okay.
That seems valid.
Okay.
Thank you. And then chair to discuss the objectives and goals of this committee.
That's just future goals. So we added there just so you guys kind of maybe know what's coming up, future goals, maybe be helpful.
Yeah, let me throw out there. So the Title 24 committee met, and I'm kind of hoping we've not moved forward with that. But I'm hoping we will move forward with coming to the committee with information on Title 24 and kind of a robust discussion of it. Because I think there's pains with that title. It's very comprehensive.
So did you guys create a subcommittee?
Yeah.
Okay,
that happened at
not
the
in a
last.
meeting you didn't. So
Yeah, it was in the meeting.
we did?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Well, I mean, but if you're bringing it back, we never talked about bringing it back. I would put it on here for you to have updates.
I think we did on the last meeting.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, I'm not sure. There was a lot going on. I thought we did.
I think it came up, but we decided against it, I believe.
Against what?
Against setting up a subcommittee.
But no, we. Okay.
So at this point, we'll start the subcommittee again, is what you're
Yeah.
looking to do. So you can provide updates as you guys dig into it. Is that what you're looking to do?
I don't know. Quite honestly, sorry. I'm not sure. Were we looking to start a subcommittee on it, or now I'm thinking maybe I was confused. Maybe we didn't do a subcommittee. What was our meeting then?
I don't know if we did a subcommittee during our meeting, but
Yeah.
we should.
Yeah, let's do it because there's
let's do
3
it.
of us meeting. So
Okay, so who is on the committee this time?
it's me, Christopher Musgrave, and Tyler. What's your last name?
Well, Tyler Chapman.
Tyler Chapman. Sorry. And do we need to do anything to start it? The subcommittee motion? Okay.
Talking, no, just we'll assign it. We'll have it a subcommittee again, and yes, we can provide updates.
Okay,
Your
perfect.
goals, yes, whatever.
Thank you. Sorry about that. My confusion.
It's okay.
Okay, and our next meeting is Monday, June 3rd. Does anybody have anything else? All right, hearing nothing. Meeting adjourned.
Cool.